What's up, everyone? Welcome to the first of many videos regarding my personal game collection. It has been a really long time since I've even been able to access most of it. A couple years back, I had to start packing it up due to lack of space at our old house, but recently we bought a new place, and very slowly I've been setting up a new game room. But one of the first things that I fully unpacked was my original PlayStation collection. This is probably about like 98% of it. There's a few games missing. Probably still packed away in other boxes. But I have about 270 games or so, pretty much all North American releases, but I do have a small collection of PAL releases that never came out here, which we'll get to later on in the video. Now, one thing is, I am not a completist collector. I'm not going for a complete set of any system at all, so this is only games that I actually want to play or I have played. No like sports titles or racing games or anything like that that I'm not interested in. On the PlayStation, it is pretty much all about horror, RPGs, and really quirky, weird games for me. If I was hard-pressed, I would say that the original PlayStation is my favorite library of games. It is where Silent Hill started, Resident Evil. It's where I really got into RPGs like hardcore with the Final Fantasy games, Saga Frontier, Vagrant Story. But the idea of this video is I want to share with you guys my collection, but I'm not just going to show you every game one by one. I'm going to highlight some of the ones that are cooler to me, harder to find, and some that are pretty expensive. And maybe there's some titles that you personally have never heard of. At the end of this video, I will do like a pan shot of all the side spines so you can see all the different games that I have. And then feel free to comment, you know, like, hey, I like that game. What was your thoughts about it, or whatever. And please, if you don't mind, give this video a thumbs up. But without further ado, let's show some damn games. As I mentioned before, I fell in love with survival horror on the PS1. And what sort of really started that for a lot of people, obviously, was Resident Evil. I have a few different variants of the first game. Got the long box version, jewel case, normal jewel case, and then like the director's cut. But there's some oddball ones on the system. One of the really oddball ones being Juggernaut. Just on the back, the tagline is "Prepare to open the gates of hell." And there is some really demented stuff in here, some really twisted puzzles. If you can see on the back, some of these pictures, there's a guy being injected in his forehead with a syringe. This lady has half her face ripped off. Very demented game. I do recommend it. Then, of course, Silent Hill being my favorite franchise of all time. There's a couple different variants, actually, of the Silent Hill original release. There's like this sort of silver metallic cover, and then there's like a matte finish one, and then, of course, like the greatest hits version. Then we have the Clocktower Games. I really wish this series would come back, and they would do something with it. There's not really a lot of like point-and-click style games at all anymore, but especially like in the horror genre. And you had the dreaded Scissor Man that would come after you. Very cool titles. I want to show this one mainly because I never hear anyone talking about it. It is Countdown Vampires. Not a whole lot of games based around vampires, especially decent ones. There's some really bad ones like Vampire Reign on the 360. That game sucks. But in this game, you get trapped in a hotel casino called the Desert Moon, and you have to kick some vampire ass. Some other oddball ones. Echo Night, which is like a first-person horror title. You actually can travel through time in that game. Multiple different endings also. And then called Deca, which is technically it's an RPG, but it's a gothic horror RPG. The system had a decent amount of shoot-'em-ups that came out on it. Not as good of a lineup as like the TurboGrafx or Super Nintendo, but there were some standout titles. The company Working Designs, through their subsidiary Spaz, put out Ray Crisis and Ray Storm, both with pretty shiny foil covers. And then the series R-Type had a few releases on the system. We have R-Type Delta and R-Types. And then there's some really weird ones like Mobile Light Force, which has such an ugly-ass cover to it. Play as flying women in this one. We have N2O Nitrous Oxide, which is like a corridor shooter where you're going down like these weird tunnels. Soul Divide, which I don't know if everyone really classify this as like a shoot 'em up, but you do have flying characters and you can cast spells and stuff at enemies coming at you. And one of the earlier releases, Philosoma, one of the long box games. And two of my favorites on the system, Einhonder, which has gone up quite a decent amount in price over the last year or two. And then Elemental Gearbolt, which is another Working Designs title, which has way more foil on it than those other two games did. Next, I want to show you guys some of the weird, obscure titles on the system. Some of these you might not have heard of, others are considered hidden gems, and some of them are just not that fantastic. But most of these actually are not very expensive at all, they're just really hard to come across. First up is Punky Skunk. You play as a skunk, if you couldn't tell. He's a Gen X skunk with an attitude. He needs to save his friends in his forest, and he likes extreme sports. There you go, Punky Skunk. Then we have Magic Carpet, where you fly around on a magic carpet. It took me a really long time to track down a complete copy of that in good shape. We have Hogs of War, which is a little more pricey. It is a war game that you play as pigs. Some of these you don't have to really go into too much detail. They're pretty simple to explain. They're just weird. Tale of the Sun. I don't even know where to begin with this one. Hunt, gather, and kill in prehistoric land where man is animal and the mammoth is king. Here you begin your quest to catch the tail of the sun. That one's not very expensive, but again, it took me a really long time to track that down. Then there is a Jumping Flash 2. I'm actually still looking for the original Jumping Flash, like the long box version. Look at the cover of this game. What the hell is that thing? You play as a robotic rabbit, like first-person view. You can jump really high. Even the back of that game says like it's absolute insanity and weird. Then we have The Bombing Islands, which is actually a fun puzzle game. Took me a while to find this. I never see it anywhere. Tail Concerto, which is a Atlas title. Back in the PS1, PS2 days, Atlas was freaking on, fire. It was golden. This game you play as furries in it. Then we have Swagman. You are tasked with, what do they call the Dream Flight? Yeah. Rescue the Dream Flight, Keepers of Happy Dreams from the sinister Swagman. Cool graphics in this game, too. Jersey Devil. This is definitely one of like the hidden gem ones on the system. A lot of people I see talk about or want it. And then this is one of the more expensive games on the PlayStation, and very odd. It's Team Buddies. You play as these little bean characters. I believe it was the European version actually was a little bit more rude and crude than this was. The American release got censored. But again, I think this game goes for over $100+ now. But some very odd titles there on the original PlayStation. Sticking with the theme of expensive titles on the system, like I mentioned, Team Buddies is way up there in price. We also have The Misadventures of Tronbon, and what adds a lot of value to this game is if it has the demo disc for Mega Man Legends 2 with it. And there is Suikoden or Suikoden 2, and this game has like never been cheap. For like the last decade plus, it has been like in the $100 price range. And next we have one of my first really great garage sale finds. This was back when I was riding my bike around going to garage sales. Brigandine, which is an Atlas title. Picked it up for like $2 or $3 at a garage sale. And then Vanguard Bandits, another Working Designs title with that foil cover there. And last up, Ogre Battle, which obviously came out like on Super Nintendo, and there was like other little spin-offs. And I think the last one we got was on the PSP, but another good Atlas game. I almost forgot to mention these two. Klonoa Door to Phantomile is going for over $100 now, and then The Adventures of Lomax is between like $200 and $250. Both are rare titles and are really good games, which is the reasons why these are going up in price so much. RPGs on the PS1 is where a lot of my time disappeared as a teenager. Of course, I played like all the Final Fantasies and other popular ones like Legend of Dragoon. I have those, but I want to show you some of the other ones that I really enjoyed that aren't quite that popular. We have Vagrant Story. I'm going to say my favorite RPG on the system because it does have a different feel to it. The art style is very different. It is a Squaresoft title. Your battle system, you have like this sphere that will change in different sizes depending on what weapons you're using, and when you're attacking your enemies, you can choose to like select different body parts. I love this game. I always really highly recommend it. This is a very odd one that I only have ever come across, I think, twice. It's World of Dragon Warrior, Torneko, The Last Hope, part of the Dragon Warrior series, obviously. You play as the shopkeep Torneko from Dragon Warrior 4, dungeon-style RPG. Pretty hard to come by, like I mentioned. Saga Frontier, another one that I absolutely loved. I just loved exploring this game. It was around the time, like I played Final Fantasy VII and that at about the same time, so I just have really fond memories of both of those. And then the first dark, twisted RPGs I ever got into were part of the Persona series. Persona and Persona 2. And actually, the very first time I played Persona, I wasn't like in love with it. The first-person view RPGs, that wasn't my favorite. I preferred like third-person or top-down. But the storyline of the Persona games is really what drew me into the series. Now I want to show you guys my small PAL collection. These are games that did not release here in the States. Maybe they only had a PAL, like European or Australia release, or they also possibly came out in Japan as well. I'm just going to show you them all because there's not a lot. We have Rapid Reload, CT Special Forces. Some of the CT games did come out here in the US, like on the Game Boy Advance. We have Blaze and Blade, Eternal Quest. Hell Knight, which is fucking awesome. I really love this game. Not only is it a Konami title, but it is an Atlas title. At that time, Konami obviously was super huge for me, Silent Hill and Metal Gear, and then Atlas was too. Just the fact that a game had both of those on it blew my mind. We have The Note, and then these are sort of like cheaper budget titles, I believe. Dreams and Jinx. Another CT game, CT Special Forces 3, Bioterror, and then Crisis Beat. Now, I got some of these while on tour in Europe. I got a lot of them from a friend I do trades with, but I like collecting, like I said, PAL releases that never came out here in the United States. I have a little collection of demo discs for the PS1. These are just for games that I really, really enjoy. Silent Hill, and actually some of the content in this was removed from the final version of the game. Then we have the Metal Gear Solid demo CD, and Final Fantasy VII, and then the collector's CD for Squaresoft, which features quite a few different games. Final Fantasy VII, Bushido Blade, Final Fantasy Tactics, Saga Frontier, and Einhander. Last up, I have a variety of PlayStation-related items to show you guys. During that era of gaming, I would always pick up the strategy guide for games, mainly because I was playing so many RPGs. Some really cool ones, like hardbound ones for Vanguard Bandits and Lunar 2, Eternal Blue Complete. Working designs, just like with their games, they put so much love and effort into their strategy guides. Just really good quality books. And then these are just some of the other like cool RPG ones I have. We got Xenogears, Threads of Fate. You know, of course, they're all white covers, so they're really glary and bright. Thousand Arms and Vandal Hearts 2. I love looking at the books. I love just sitting there going through, looking at all the like weapons, the monster list. That was one of my favorite things to do, was look at like the beasts and creatures that were in the games. Then we have a PS1 combo screen system. And this I got from my friend G.I. Joe Tony. This is actually factory sealed. It's never been open. I have an open one with the screen, but I decided to just hang on to this because I thought it was, you know, it's one of my favorite systems. Thought it was really cool that it was still sealed. Then I actually just recently got this, the Lunar Silver Star Story little boxing puppet there. And one of my favorite promo items I have in my collection, which is the Final Fantasy VII, Bushido Blade, Saga Frontier, and Final Fantasy Tactics little countertop standee, and it comes with some of its little tip cards that would have originally been here, like on a little notebook, and there's still a couple of those with it, so that is really sweet. It's one of my favorite promo items I have. I love collecting promo, like standees and posters and stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. What are some of your favorite PlayStation games? Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you don't mind. And I'm going to end this video, like I said, with a pan shot of all of my PlayStation games. So thank you for watching, guys. Peace.